Hello, tankers and gamers. It's Momentary Genius here, back with a video that doesn't feature any gameplay, sadly, and is more of a, well, maybe I'm just confused, or maybe I'm onto something here. There is possibly a bit of ignorance on real world versus what happens in game, but I've come to the feeling that, specifically in Era 2, there seems to be a lot of similarities to penetration values, specifically between the 105 millimeter boom snouts, the 120 millimeter boom snouts, and the 112 millimeter boom snouts. Now, firstly, let me go back in time. I first kind of became interested in the whole penetration values with this tank, the Object 120, a tank that I'm sure you see semi-often on the battlefield. But I ask you, knowing that it has the penetration of 398 millimeters, despite being 152.4 millimeters wide for or diameter, do you fear that high alpha that comes with that low penetration? As you can see up in the upper right hand corner, it's 850 standard, 850 for the heat, I believe, and then a nice 1,000 and change for the HE, which are, I only run standard and HE on this. But with 398 millimeters of penetration, a large tank, a slow turret rotation, derpy accuracy, slow accuracy, it's aim in time, I think, on this with my commander setup, as you can see the troll. It's not fully maxed out, but it's about still around 2 seconds. Does these high alpha tanks, now that we also have the rock crawler in it with a 183, oh god, 183 millimeters, like, do you fear these tanks? Does this tank strike the same fear as, say, the FE 4005 in Tier 10 or Arrow 1? I'm going to be exempting ATGMs and the M68A2 and the Sheridan because those two tanks, that's more of a launcher, not an actual technical gun barrel, cannon barrel, so. But just look at the penetration values here. So we have the Object 120, then we have the TR 125 at 416, T72 381, T72 408, T72 Euro 372. It's interesting that these all have 125 millimeter boom snouts. The TR 125 may be argued to be slightly newer or modified by the Romanians, but this is what it looks like from a newer tank with penetration to the older tank with upgraded gun and very similar boom snout here. It's yeah, that's kind of like a whole power creep thing. But then let's say we sneak on down here to what our base here is 100. Looks like 376. That's 100 millimeter boom snout, 376 penetration on standard. We won't talk about penetration on heat because that's kind of useless. Then here's 120, 372. So you go 20 millimeters up, and your penetration for your standard gun is actually worse. I mean, it could. Then here's 105, 370 for the Type 6 Okay, that could just be historically accurate for whatever powder and charges were used in those cans. Okay, maybe I'm just crazy again. I could be ignorant here, but I definitely feel that. Let's talk about the leopards. They kind of shook things up here because you have 105 millimeter boom snout at Leopard 181. Standard penetration, while the alpha is lower than the T72AV by a decent margin. It has more penetration though at 449. M68A1. This was one of the first tanks in Cold War. It was one of the first of the two lines. There was only the American line and then the Russian line. You see the 105 421. Okay. Leopard 185 449. Okay. Rise. Three. Do you see where it's kind of odd? And then here we have 115 427. I kind of feel like some say playing Cold War, all the tanks are the same. And I kind of see where they're coming from, where yes, your armor values may vary, although with the proliferation, again, of medium tanks in Era 2, the only thing you really have to worry about is the FE4 to 11. But I really do think we may need a nerfing of the 105 millimeter boom cells, because alpha aside, like, what's the point of alpha if you're going to bounce? And it's like, it just appears on paper. This is all on paper again. 105 is no different from 125. Buff the object 120 because at 152 millimeter, 100 millimeters of penetration or diameter, and 398 millimeters of penetration, it's not good. And at the same time, you if you want to learn how to use ATGMs, that's okay. You have better penetration. You have that destructibility power. But then it gets really funky because the beloved Mobet, if you might not be able to get this, is a 130 millimeter boom snout on here, and I could see it having the same penetration as 125, millimeter boom snout as the T70V, but the fact that it's like these bigger boom snouts, like these are just clubs, while the leopards and the 105s are just better armor piercing. It's kind of like I wish there would be a slight differentiation. And then, weirdly enough, the Leopard 2AV, the premium Leopard heavy tank, gets 370 millimeter penetration on standard. It the it's one of those things of like 20 millimeters of difference in the size of the cannon and the size of the projectile. I, these are all pretty much rocking APF SDS for the most part. And it's just like the size of the charge isn't affecting the penetration values. I just feel that wargaming console division is maybe lost the plot here when it comes to what the old tanks are capable of versus what the newer tanks are capable of. And I'm just talking about the tanks I have. Obviously, we have the French tanks with the like high penetration heat, but heat again with this armor. It's just confusing me as to why it's like wouldn't you rather learn how to go with a better penetrating tank, learn to work with the armor weaknesses, and then I have a tougher tank, but it means I'm not as accurate, and my penetration values are lower. So, am I crazy? Am I wrong? Am I ignorant? Or is there, I don't know if they'll nerf the premium tanks per se, but maybe nerfing some of the newer 105 millimeter tanks, so maybe like take 10 millimeters off or something. So they're closer to being like really good 100 millimeter, because like you go from 376 millimeters of penetration on like the TR 580 and TR 85, and then suddenly you go to like a Leopard 1 series, and it's like the top guns get almost 450. I just feel like maybe we could shrink that number down for the 105 millimeter guns, boom snouts, and then maybe we don't have to play around with buffing any armor profiles, and we stretch out the matches for another minute or two. I know Wargaming loves to have these 4-minute matches in Core, but maybe we'll have to reduce the number here for the 105s to bring back a little bit of skill, because literally with the majority of these tanks I showed you, except for anything with 100 millimeters penetration, all you have to do is aim at the exact same place every time on a tank, and you just let RNG decide. You have a really good chance of pinning in that same spot with most of these tanks, unless RNG's like, nah, I think you should shoot the dirt. No, I think you should fly high and watch that round pierce the sky. Like, that's my thought on penetration values. I'm sorry I didn't do a Ricky Tikki Tavi here, or excuse me, Robert Rhino, and do a half hour of spreadsheets, but I don't have the patience for that, or the willingness to be that tedious. But yeah, please let me know in the comments below what you think. Like and subscribe if you occasionally like something to point out. Things are too good. Make it worse. I hope you keep your checks on the ground, RNG's in your favor, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.